All right, let's dive right in and talk about getting ready for a colonoscopy using the Miralax prep method. I know a lot of people find this whole process pretty intimidating,
Hmm.
so we're here to walk you through every single step and hopefully help you feel a little more relaxed about the whole thing.
Yeah, think of us as your prep buddies. We're going to answer all your questions and make sure you feel good and prepared for your colonoscopy.
Now, before we get to the details of the prep, can we just take a second to remember why a colonoscopy is so important in the first place?
Sure, a colonoscopy is like taking a tiny camera on a tour through your large intestine, basically, and it lets doctors look for anything that seems off. It's actually the best way to find these things called polyps. Polyps are like little growths, and sometimes they can turn into colon cancer.
So by catching them early, we can prevent something much worse from happening.
Exactly. It's all about prevention, finding and dealing with these things before they have a chance to become a big problem.
Now, I've heard some people say that the older prep methods are kind of like drinking a gallon of, well, something not very tasty. Is the Miralax prep a little easier on you?
You heard right. The Miralax prep uses less liquid overall.
Oh, that's good news. Okay, so what exactly does the Miralax prep involve?
Okay, so there are three main things you'll need. You'll need Miralax, you'll need Gatorade, and you'll need Dalcolax tablets. The Miralax, that's a laxative, helps soften things up in your colon by drawing water into it. The Gatorade, super important for replacing those electrolytes you lose well, when you're going to the bathroom a lot. And then the Dalcolax tablets, they kind of give things an extra push to make sure everything's moving along nicely.
Sounds like a real team effort.
Mhm.
Each ingredient's got its own special job.
Totally, like a cleaning crew for your colon, right?
Yeah.
Everyone plays an important part.
So is there anything else I should have ready to make the experience a little better? I'm picturing a comfy spot near the bathroom.
Great idea. You definitely want to have some soft toilet paper and those baby wipes, trust me. And if you tend to be, a little constipated, milk of magnesia can be helpful to get things flowing a bit better.
Good to know. When should I start gathering all of this stuff?
I would say it's best to have everything 3 days before your colonoscopy. That way you're not scrambling around last minute and you can just focus on following those instructions.
Makes sense, less stress.
For sure.
I-
Oh, and don't forget, make sure to have a friend or family member drive you to and from your appointment.
Right, because of the sedation, you won't be able to drive yourself home.
Exactly, got to be safe.
Okay, so we got our supplies, our rides sorted out, and we're ready to talk about that prep timeline. What should I be doing 3 days before the colonoscopy?
Okay, 3 days out, you really want to make sure you understand those instructions, read them carefully, maybe highlight the important parts, make sure everything's clear. This is also a good time to start adjusting your diet. No need to go crazy, just focus on some lighter meals. Makes the cleanout process a bit easier.
So easing into it, no need to go overboard. What about 2 days before?
Keep up your regular activity and keep going with that low-fiber diet. Try not to eat too much because remember, what goes in must come out right. If you tend to get constipated, maybe consider some milk of magnesia after dinner with plenty of water just to keep things moving.
Keeping things moving. All right, that's the goal. Okay, so one day before the colonoscopy, things get a little more, well, a little more serious, right?
Yeah.
I imagine that's when the clear liquid diet starts.
You got it. One day before, that's when the prep really gets going. From 7 a.m., it's only clear liquids. So no solid foods, only things that you can see through.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? What counts as a clear liquid?
So things like water,
Mm.
clear broth like you'd get in one-ton soup, black coffee, tea, juices without pulp, popsicles, light-colored sports drinks. You want to stay away from anything red, purple, or blue. Those colors can actually stain your colon, and that makes it harder for the doctor to see clearly.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about the thickness of the liquid. The color matters, too. Makes
Hmm.
sense. Now, what about the Dulcolax tablets and the Miralax? When do those come in?
So you'll take those 4 Dalcolax tablets around noon with water, and then you keep drinking lots of clear liquids all day. Then it's time to mix the entire bottle of Miralax with 64 ounces of Gatorade. You can put this in the fridge if you like it cold.
So getting things prepped in the afternoon and evening, drinking that much liquid, it just sounds like a lot. Any tips to make it a little easier?
Oh, for sure. Using a straw can help. Also, sipping other clear liquids between those doses of the Miralax mixture, that's important to stay hydrated. It's not a race, so just pace yourself and find what's comfortable for you.
Good advice. And probably a good idea to stay close to the bathroom.
Yeah, definitely.
So how much of this Miralax-Gatorade mixture am I actually supposed to drink and how often?
You'll drink 8 ounces every 15 minutes. Do that 4 times, so a total of 32 ounces for the first half of the prep.
Okay, breaking it down into manageable bits. Now, What about the day of the colonoscopy? What should I expect when I wake up?
First things first, no breakfast. 5 hours before your appointment, you start the second half of the prep. Same as the night before, 32 ounces of that Miralax-Gatorade mixture, 8 ounces every 15 minutes.
So it's basically like a double cleanse. Why is it so important to split the prep like this?
So the split prep, that's super important to make sure everything's really clean. The first part cleans out your colon the night before, but while you're sleeping, your liver keeps making this stuff called bile. That bile goes into your small intestine, and then it can kind of trickle down into your right colon overnight. And if it's there, it might block the doctor's view. So the second part of the prep, the morning of your colonoscopy, cleans out any of that material, making sure that your right colon is totally clean for the exam.
Ah, so it's like cleaning your house. The first round gets most of the dust and dirt, but some might settle overnight, so that second round is like making sure everything's spotless before guests arrive.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. You want your colon to be just as spotless for the doctor.
Okay, so we've covered what to eat, what to drink, when to drink it. Now, what should I actually expect to feel during the prep? What are some common side effects?
Well, you're definitely going to be spending a lot of time in the bathroom. As those laxatives get to work, you'll notice your bowel movements becoming very watery.
Yeah, I think we all know that's coming. Anything else I should be ready for?
You might feel a little bloated or have some cramping. That's normal. Walking around, maybe gently massaging your abdomen can help. And remember, it's really important to stay hydrated throughout the whole prep process. That will help prevent dehydration.
Got it. So lots of bathroom breaks, maybe some discomfort, but we're staying hydrated and moving around to help things along.
Right.
What should my bowel movements ideally look like? Is there something specific I should be looking for?
You want the fluid to be clear yellow, like urine. That means your colon is nice and clean and ready for its close-up.
All right, clear yellow, got it. But what if I'm still having solid or brown stools on the morning of the test? Should I be worried?
That's a really good question. If that happens, it could mean the prep wasn't totally effective. So definitely call your doctor's office if that's the case. They might need to reschedule the procedure to make sure they get a good look. It's always better to be safe than sorry and let them know if you have any concerns.
So don't be shy about reaching out if you're not sure about something.
Exactly. They're there to help you and answer your questions. Speaking of questions, we should probably talk about some specific instructions for anyone with diabetes who's getting ready for a colonoscopy. Managing your blood sugar during the prep, that's super important. And we want to make sure you have all the information you need to do it safely.
That's a great point, and we'll dive into those details right after this. Okay, so we're back and ready to talk about those important things to keep in mind for anyone with diabetes who's prepping for their colonoscopy.
Yeah, managing your blood sugar during the prep is super important. It's like adjusting your diabetes plan a little bit to work with all the changes in what you're eating and drinking.
So what's the main concern for people with diabetes when it comes to this prep?
The big thing is the chance of hypoglycemia.
Hmm.
Low blood sugar. You're not eating solid foods during the prep and you're drinking a ton of liquids that can really mess with your blood sugar.
Makes sense. So it's super important to keep a close eye on your blood sugar levels during this time.
For sure. Check your blood sugar more often than you usually would. Talk to your doctor about how often to check and what your target range should be.
We mentioned how important it is to follow the prep instructions. Does that include medications too?
Oh, definitely. Most diabetes meds will probably need to be adjusted a bit during the prep to avoid that low blood sugar risk we talked about. Your doctor will help you make a personalized plan based on the exact meds you're taking.
So it's a team effort to find that balance. Adjusting your meds to match the changes in your diet and the prep itself. Can you give us an idea of how different types of medications might be adjusted?
Sure. Let's say you take metformin. That's a common medication for type 2 diabetes. Your doctor might tell you to stop taking it when you start that clear liquid diet,
Hmm.
and then you'd start taking it again once you're back to eating regular meals after the procedure.
Got it. So metformin takes a break during the prep. What about those weekly injections that some people take?
Yeah, like semaglutide, that's a GLP-1 receptor agonist, usually a weekly injection. Your doctor will let you know when to skip that injection during the prep week, and then when to start taking it again.
So the bottom line is that adjustments will likely be needed, but your doctor's got your back and will help you create a plan that works for you.
Absolutely. It's all about working together to make sure your blood sugar stays in a good range throughout the whole thing. Now, we talked about low blood sugar, but there's also this thing called permissive hyperglycemia. We should probably talk about that.
Okay, permissive hyperglycemia. What exactly is that?
Basically, it means letting your blood sugar be a little higher than usual for a short time during the prep.
Yeah.
Now, don't freak out. This doesn't mean forgetting about your blood sugar targets altogether. It's just acknowledging that with all the diet and medication changes, keeping your levels perfectly normal during this time can be tough. And sometimes it's actually safer to have slightly high blood sugar for a day or two than to risk low blood sugar, which can be more dangerous in the short term.
So it's about finding that balance, focusing on safety first.
Right. And your doctor, again, will help you figure out what blood sugar level is okay for you during the prep, taking into account your health and how you usually manage your diabetes.
So lots of communication with your doctor. That's key. Now, besides keeping your blood sugar in check, are there other things people with diabetes should be mindful of during this prep?
Staying hydrated, that's super important for everyone, but especially for people with diabetes. When you're only drinking clear liquids, it can increase your risk of dehydration, and that can really mess with your blood sugar levels.
So we're talking about more than just a few sips of water here and there.
For sure. Drink tons of clear liquids during the whole prep, even if you don't feel thirsty. This helps flush everything out and keeps your body working right.
All right, so hydration is key. Now, we've talked a lot about the prep itself, but what about the day of the colonoscopy? Anything specific people with diabetes should do as they get ready for their appointment?
Yeah, definitely. First off, remember you'll probably need to change your morning insulin dose. Since you won't be having breakfast, you won't need as much insulin. Talk to your doctor about how much to adjust your dose. It depends on what kind of insulin you take and what your blood sugar is like.
Okay, so matching our insulin to the fact that we're skipping breakfast on the morning of the procedure, anything else we should remember?
Don't forget to pack your diabetes supplies. Things like your blood glucose meter, test strips, lancets, and any meds you'll need for that day. Better to have them just in case.
Right, being prepared is super important.
Oh, and when you get to the hospital for your colonoscopy, let the nurses and doctors know if you have any concerns or questions. They're there to help you and make sure you're as comfortable as possible.
Makes sense. Open communication is key. Now, we've spent a good chunk of time talking about diabetes and how to manage it during this prep. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about that clean colon we keep mentioning. Why is it so important for the colonoscopy itself? We've talked a lot about the Miralax prep, but let's get back to the colonoscopy itself. Why is having a clean colon so important for this procedure?
It's all about visibility. When your colon is clean, the doctor can see everything clearly. Like imagine trying to look through a dirty windshield, you wouldn't be able to see well, right?
So if there's anything left in the colon, it could be hiding polyps or other problems that the doctor needs to see.
Exactly. And those polyps, remember, they can be really small and hard to find. So we need to make sure the doctor has a clear view to catch them early.
That makes sense. Now, we've mentioned that clear yellow fluid is the goal. What happens if someone is still having solid or brown stools on the morning of the colonoscopy?
That's a good sign that the prep might not have worked as well as it should have. You really need to call your doctor's office if that happens. They might have to reschedule the procedure to get a clear look. It's always better to be safe and ask if you have any concerns.
So don't be afraid to reach out to your doctor if you're not sure about something.
Absolutely. They're there to help you and answer any questions.
Okay, so let's imagine it's the day of the colonoscopy. We've talked about arranging for a ride, packing your diabetes supplies if you need them, and talking to the medical staff.
Yeah.
Anything else people should keep in mind as they're getting ready to go to their appointment?
Besides all the practical stuff, it's normal to feel a little nervous or anxious about the procedure. It's okay to talk to your doctor or the nurses about those feelings. They've heard it all before, and they can help you feel more at ease.
That's a good point. Remember, you're not alone in this. Millions of people have colonoscopies every year, and the medical staff are experts at making the experience as comfortable as possible.
Right. They know what they're doing, and they're there to take good care of you.
Hopefully, this deep dive has helped you feel more informed and prepared to handle this important procedure.
Definitely, we want you to feel ready, informed, and comfortable throughout the whole thing.
As we wrap things up, let's leave you with one last thought. Knowing everything we've talked about today, how might you change up your routine in the days leading up to the colonoscopy to make things easier on yourself?
That's a great question. Maybe it's planning out your meals, stocking up on those comfy things we mentioned, maybe adjusting your work schedule, or even just setting up a relaxing spot near the bathroom with a good book or some music.
All great ideas. It's all about minimizing stress and making yourself as comfortable as possible during those few days. We hope this deep dive has been helpful, and we encourage you to prioritize your health and get that colonoscopy scheduled. It's an important step for your well-being and peace of mind.
Stay curious and stay healthy.